All rise.
Excellencies, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to the swearing-in ceremony of the newly elected prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. The ICC of today is very different from the ICC of June 2003, when the first swearing-in ceremony for the prosecutor took place. The ICC is now a fully functioning institution that underpins the Rome Statute system and protects the peoples of its current 121 member states from the gravest crimes of international concern. The ICC has also earned the confidence of the wider international community beyond its own states parties. However, we must recognize the shortcomings and obstacles that remain and redouble our commitment to further strengthening this evolving system of international criminal justice. Ensuring the full cooperation of states with the court, continuing to work toward universality of the Rome Statute, strengthening national jurisdictions to act as the primary deterrent of atrocity crimes, and providing the court with the adequate resources to successfully carry out its mandate are some of our key challenges. With the rendering of the ICC's first verdict earlier this year, we have also embarked on a lessons learned exercise in order to improve the efficiency of the judicial process as a whole. As the ICC enters the second decade of its existence, in these very active and challenging times for the court, we are very fortunate to have Madam Fatou Bensouda take charge of the office of the prosecutor. Madam Bensouda brings a wealth of prosecutorial experience drawn from many years of hard and dedicated work at the ICC and from her previous positions. Elected by consensus, she will assume her new role with staunch international support behind her. I am confident that her strong independent voice, legal expertise, and genuine concern for human rights issues will contribute greatly to the continued fight against impunity. I would also like to use this opportunity to thank the outgoing prosecutor, Mr. Luis Moreno Campo, who is today with us, for his work over the past years. Being the first prosecutor of the first permanent International Criminal Court must have been a formidable task, and his contribution to the court has already left an indelible imprint on the history of international criminal justice. Excellencies, pursuant to Article 45 of the Rome Statute of the Court, before taking up her duties, the prosecutor, just like the judges, the deputy prosecutor, the registrar, and the deputy registrar, must make in open court a solemn undertaking to exercise her functions impartially and conscientiously. The President of the Assembly of States Parties will witness the making of the solemn undertaking. The judges, the outgoing prosecutor, the registrar, and the deputy registrar are also in attendance. Before this solemn undertaking, I invite the President of the Assembly of States Parties to report on the election of the prosecutor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a special honor for me to represent the Assembly of States Parties at this solemn undertaking of the new prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Ms. Fatou Bensouda. Let me first briefly highlight the process undertaken by the Assembly and the Bureau of the Assembly in the run-up to the election of Ms. Bensouda. The Assembly was determined to identify the best of the best to fill this crucial position. And with this in mind, and based on the relevant Assembly resolution, which also indicates the desirability of nominations being made with the support of multiple states parties, and also a strong appeal to make every effort to elect the prosecutor by consensus, the Bureau of the Assembly established a search committee to facilitate the nomination and election by consensus of the next prosecutor. The members of the search committee all served in their personal capacity, and the search committee, by consensus, produced a short list of candidates. Each of the 4 shortlisted candidates gave a presentation to states parties, at which states parties in turn had an opportunity to ask questions and to engage in a dialogue with the candidates. After that, informal consultations were conducted, and a broad agreement was reached that Ms. Fatou Bensouda should be nominated as the sole candidate for the position of the prosecutor. And Ms. Bensouda was then nominated by 76 states parties at the 10th session of the Assembly. On 12th December, she was elected by acclamation for the period of 9 years. And while the states parties are still conducting a lessons learned from the exercise I just described, I am sure that we have succeeded to identify and elect a prosecutor who is of high moral character and highly competent. Having served since November 2004 as Deputy Prosecutor of the Court, Ms. Bensouda has been at the forefront of the main challenges faced by the Court. Let me take this opportunity to congratulate Ms Bensouda on behalf of the state's parties on her election and assumption of office, and reiterate my appreciation for the efforts undertaken and time invested by my predecessor, Ambassador Christian Venaweser, by Prince Said Rad Said Al Hussein, who served as coordinator of the search committee, and by all members of the Assembly who contributed to the process of consensus building. As we commemorate the 10th anniversary of the court and the new prosecutor is stepping into office, I would also like to pay tribute to Mr. Luis Moreno Ocampo for the courage and passion with which he has carried out his mandate while shaping the court and its image and putting it on the radar screens of the international community and in the center of the fight against impunity. I am confident that the same passion and dedication will mark the tenure of the second prosecutor. It is a pleasure to see a strong African woman who has an unwavering feeling of responsibility towards victims of the most heinous crimes, including gender-based crimes, assuming this key role in international criminal justice. As Ms Bensouda takes office, the court is an established institution that has finally delivered its first verdict and almost completed its first judicial cycle. It is dealing with 15 cases in 7 situations, among them 2 Security Council referrals of situations in non-state parties. The court has become a powerful instrument that is has by nature and will by nature create controversy. The first years have been especially challenging for the institution, and in the second decade of the court, we will of course see new prosecutions, but we will also have to see a stepped-up activity in the court in delivering justice, and states together with the court will have to find the means to expedite judicial proceedings. One of the challenges ahead is achieving universal ratification of the Rome Statute. Slowly but surely we keep working towards the universality of the Rome Statute and fostering consensus that Rome Statute crimes should never go unpunished. In the second decade, we will hopefully see states stepping up their domestic efforts to investigate and prosecute Rome Statute crimes. The court depends on the active support and cooperation of its states parties. All 121 states parties must stand firmly for the integrity of the Rome Statute and respond promptly to cooperation requests received from the court. The requests and obligations to cooperate with the court also concern other states. Just a few days before the end of his mandate, Prosecutor Ocampo presented another report in the situation in Darfur, Sudan, to the UN Security Council. And this situation, referred by the Council, is one where cooperation with the court is not forthcoming. It is a telling example of the kind of challenges the court is facing at present moment. Another example of challenges before the court is the recent detention of 4 ICC staff members while on official mission to Libya. It is important that we continue to live up to our commitment to work together to fight impunity for the gravest international crimes. As President of the Assembly of States Parties, I will do my best to ensure the political, diplomatic, and financial support of states parties, and to conduct a continuous dialogue about the court with non-states parties and with different international and regional organizations. On behalf of the Assembly, I wish Ms. Fatou Bensouda courage and determination for the next 9 years as prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Excellency. We will now proceed with the solemn undertaking. I invite the President of the Assembly of States Parties to oversee the solemn undertaking. And I now invite Madam Fatou Bensouda to take the oath.
I, Fatou Bensouda, solemnly undertake that I will perform my duties and exercise my powers as prosecutor of the International Criminal Court honorably, faithfully, impartially, and conscientiously, and that I will respect the confidentiality of the investigations and prosecutions.
Congratulations, Fatou. Congratulations.
I would like to invite Madam Prosecutor to take the floor.
Madam President and Mr. Vice President of the Assembly of States Parties, Mr. President of the International Criminal Court, Your Honors, Madam Registrar, Mr. Deputy Registrar, Prosecutor Moreno Ocampo, Counsel Keita for Defense, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Before anything, I would like to say my thoughts are today with our 4 colleagues who are currently being detained in Libya, as well as with their families and friends. The Office of the Prosecutor stands with the court as a whole in their support to ensure their safety and swift release. Allow me to express my gratitude for the honor to continue to serve international justice. As I take up today the position of Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, I am humbled by the privilege, responsibility, and vote of confidence bestowed upon me by the Assembly of States Parties and the wider international community. I am particularly thankful for the confidence of the African Union in me and their support for my candidature. This is yet another clear demonstration of the continent's commitment to international justice and the fight against impunity. The one thing which every one of you can rest assured of is that I will be the prosecutor of all 121 states parties, acting in full independence and impartiality. Justice, real justice, is not a pick-and-choose system. To be effective, to be just, and to be a real deterrent, the Office of the Prosecutor's activities and decisions will continue to be based solely on the law and the evidence. In turn, the Office's decision and those of the court in general must be respected and implemented. This is the only way to sustain and strengthen the system of international criminal justice created by the Rome Statute. It requires the efforts of all actors within the system. When my predecessor, Luis Moreno Ocampo, started the work of the office in 2003, he had 2 staff members with him, 6 empty floors, and no cases ongoing. He had to build the office from nothing, and he had to develop office strategies and working methods. There were millions all over the world looking to this court with immense expectations, some with skepticism, worried about the next steps of an independent and impartial prosecutor, while others hoped to see justice at last for situations of massive atrocities where nothing was being done. Madam President, as I take over the office of the prosecutor today, this court finds itself in a completely different stage of its existence. I do not need to build a new office, thanks to the tireless efforts and commitment of Luis Moreno Ocampo. I inherit a well-respected and sound functioning office with almost 300 staff from 80 countries, 7 situations under investigations, 14 cases before the chambers, 7 preliminary examinations, and 1 verdict. From a groundbreaking idea on paper in 1998 to an incredible international criminal justice experiment in 2003, we have now, reaching our 10th anniversary, become an undisputed reality in the international arena. However, and despite this incredible success, we must not take pause and be content with these achievements. For as I speak, massive crimes continue to be committed in Darfur. Joseph Kony and the Lord's Resistance Army's acts of violence continue unabated in Central Africa. Bosco Ntaganda is still a fugitive of the ICC. In total, 11 arrest warrants remain outstanding. Nothing short of arresting all these against whom warrants have been issued will ensure that justice is done for the millions of victims of crimes committed by these fugitives. Today, the court has become a global judicial institution that is part of the greater world system. We, however, need to focus our attention on consolidating and understanding its role and relevance in the management of violence through effective exercise of its mandate to investigate, prosecute, and prevent massive crimes. Cooperation with and support for the court need to be consistently upheld and strengthened by all actors. In so doing, we should not be guided by words and propaganda of a few influential individuals whose sole aim is to evade justice, but rather we should focus on and listen to the millions of victims who continue to suffer massive crimes. The return on our investment for what others may today consider to be a huge cost for justice is effective deterrence and saving millions of victims' lives. Madam President, Mr. President, as I begin my tenure, moving forward in consolidating current practices, the office will continue to forge ahead with its investigations and prosecutions. It will, in particular, also continue to look for innovative methods for the collection of evidence to bring further gender crimes and crimes against children to the court to ensure effective prosecutions of these crimes while respecting and protecting the victims. Preliminary examinations will remain a key element of the office's activities, and the office will continue to ensure clarity, transparency, and predictability in its decisions. And based on the lessons learned exercises it has been conducting internally and externally, the office will build on its experiences, identify best practices, and continue to improve its efficiency. While conducting its activities within its mandate, respectful of the divisions of functions and responsibilities established by the statute, the office will continue to work in partnership with other organs of the court, the Assembly of States Parties, as well as its civil society partners. Respect for independence endowed to the office by the statute must, however, be maintained at all times. This is how the Rome system was designed. This is how it has to be implemented. Collaborative efforts will ensure its success. I am ready, Mr. President, Madam President, to do my part, and I hope I can count on all the different members of the system to also do their part. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam Prosecutor, for these remarks. The solemn undertaking of the Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court has hereby been concluded. in accordance with the Article 45 of the Rome Statute. The ceremony is hereby adjourned. Thank you.
All rise.